Hello everyone. Vol'jin, Shadows of the Horde is in my opinion a great book and definitely worth your money. If you're still planning on buying it, be warned, there will be spoilers in this video. As always, this will be the short version of the story. If you want to know all the details, buy the book. Let's begin, shall we? The story of Shadows of the Horde takes place after Vol'jin gets assassinated. He's found by his old friend Chen Stormstout, who takes him to the Shado-Pan monastery. Vol'jin was not the only one who Chen brought to the monastery. Earlier he had found a human named Tirafan who had fallen at the Battle of the Serpent's Heart. Taranzu allows Vol'jin to stay even though he doesn't want anything to do with the Horde Alliance conflicts. Taranzu has the plan in mind of making Vol'jin and Tirafan interact with each other because they both represent a part of the Pandaren philosophy. Taranzu describes Vol'jin as being very Tushui and Tirafan as very Hojin. By placing them together, Taranzu hopes that they will balance each other out and that he himself might learn something from observing them and watching their behavior. For those unaware, the philosophies are described as the following. Tushui is the way of a principled life. Followers of this discipline believe there's a moral certainty to the world, one correct path of right and wrong. These values are immutable and must be preserved no matter what the cost. Simply put, Tushui is the way of the mind and a lot of thinking.
Patience is the highest virtue. Discipline and practice lead us to our full potential.
Hojin is marked by practical and decisive action. Followers of this discipline believe that morals and ideas are not absolute, but they change with circumstances. Simply put, Hojin is the way of action.
The greatest virtue is the will to act. The time to act is always now.
It's interesting to note that Vol'jin, although part of the Horde, is described as Tushui, and Tirafan, although part of the Alliance, is described as Hojin. Anyways, Vol'jin starts his recovery with the aid of Tirafan. His time spent in the monastery teaches him more about humans, how fragile they are, how to deal with their mortality, but still fight for what they believe is right. He also trains with the monks, which is not that easy since Vol'jin is a shadow hunter. Shadow hunters are special amongst the trolls because they have a strong connection with the Loa, who are like primal gods who sometimes grant them powers or visions. You can compare them to, for example, the light, where paladins and priests take their power from. Shadow hunters master chaos in their fighting style, while monks try to achieve balance with theirs. Despite that big difference, Vol'jin trains and he learns. He learns very fast. At one point, Vol'jin receives a vision where he sees the ships with Zandalari crests on them. At first he thinks it's a vision of a long time past, and then he believes it's a vision of a possible future for him. A vision granted by the Loa teasing him with a future of conquest. Little did Vol'jin know that this vision was not for his future, but a warning of the coming Zandalari invasion. Eventually he would figure it out and he warned Taranzu. As he does this, he asks for maps to indicate what he has seen, but the maps do not show the island of this vision. That's because the island in his vision is the Isle of Thunder. The invading Zandalari trolls, as well as Amani trolls and the Gurubashi, are being led by Kha'lak. Kha'lak serves Vilnakdor, who was sent by King Arastakan. As we know, the trolls resurrected the Thunder King and allied with the Mogu. They want to team up and reclaim their fallen kingdoms. Vol'jin eventually figures out what's going on and he makes plans together with Taranzu and the others to set up defenses. The problem is, with the recent Mented invasion and the recent Sha problems, that the Shado-Pan don't have that many monks to spare. Taranzu promises that he will try to enlist the aid of the Horde in the Alliance to fight the battle at the Isle of Thunder, while in the meantime, Vol'jin, Chen and Tirafan set out to slow the Zandalari invasion. They do a pretty good job until they walk into a trap set by Kha'lak. She captures Tirafan and forces the others to lay down their weapons. At that point they are captured, but Kha'lak does not imprison Vol'jin right away because she has an offer for him. She wants him and his Darkspear tribe to join them in reclaiming the fallen empire of the trolls. This offer is very tempting for Vol'jin. Don't forget that Garrosh, leader of his former family, just tried to kill him. A place in a new world order, a home for his Darkspear trolls, standing at the side of Kha'lak as he had done for Thrall, is an offer only a fool would refuse. And yet he does refuse it. What you need to understand is that a shadow hunter's job is to do what is best for the trolls. Throughout the story he sees vision of the history of the trolls from their creation, where they made their bond with the Loa, to the rise of the Zandalari Empire, where they acquired riches and no longer relied on the Loa. The visions lead him all the way to the fall of the Troll Empire, one that they still try to reclaim even to this day. Along those visions, he sees how shadow hunters of the past turn away from the Zandalari as they no longer do what is best for the trolls, as they no longer respect the Loas as they used to. So the conclusion Vol'jin draws is that what they are trying to do, reclaim a kingdom of old, is not what is best for the trolls. He lives in the reality of today, and today the Darkspear are his family, and the Darkspear are part of the Horde, which makes the Horde his family. The fate of the Horde and trolls were undeniably intertwined. To act if it wasn't the truth would be complete folly. The past be important. We can and must be learning from it, but it cannot shackle us. The old ways be valuable, but only as a foundation for the future we choose to be building. With that knowledge, he sets out to free his comrades and do as much damage to the Zandalari troops as he can. They assassinate the officers in the night, they blow up a ship, and they escape to the monastery. There, Vol'jin had the plan of leaving the monastery and find a better location for a counterattack, but Taranzu refuses to leave. The location of the monastery is where they planned the Pandaren rebellion to overthrow the Mogu so many years ago, and he would not give up the monastery. That means they had to defend themselves, 33 versus an army of Zandalari, Armani, Kurubashi and a couple of Mogu, reaching in the numbers of 500. The battle began, and they tried to stop them as much as possible, but eventually they were pushed back into the monastery. By that time 33 had already become 14, and the only one who didn't seem to have been fighting at all was Taranzu. Now don't get me wrong, he had been fighting, he's just such a badass that nobody can touch him. At one point in the fight, a Mogu came charging towards Vol'jin with his spear, and he would have impaled him was it not for Tirafan. Tirafan pushed Vol'jin out of the way and took the spear straight to the belly. Taranzu jumped in with a flying kick and he punched straight through the Mogu, quickly disposing of him. Which leads to the final confrontation in this battle, and this was between Vol'jin and a pissed off Kha'lak. She wasn't only pissed off because Vol'jin refused to join her, but she also had a little bit of a crush on him. In the end, Vol'jin manages to get the upper hand by using his monk skills, which he uses to punch straight through her windpipe. At the death of their leader and the Mogu, the remaining trolls started to retreat, and Taranzu told the remaining to flee or they would lose their lives here and there, and so they did. At that point in time, Vol'jin turns to Tirafan, who is still impaled with the spear, and he communicates with the Loa. Bon Samdi, the Loa of the dead, agrees to not take Tirafan just yet, because of all the troll spirits Vol'jin and Tirafan had sent him, and all the spirits Vol'jin promises that will come. The day is saved, and the rest of the events at the Isle of Thunder we already know. We stop the Thunder King and the Zandalari invasion. Vol'jin has made his choice of who he will become, and he decides that what Garrosh is doing is not good for the family. It will make not only his people, but the family of the Horde suffer, and that is not who Vol'jin was, is, or wants to be. He gets ready to make a stand and to start a rebellion, to overthrow a war chief who no longer does what is best for his people, but what is best for himself. And that's the end of the story. Now I could never tell it as well as it was written, because it's a very philosophical story combined with some kick-ass action and the journey Vol'jin takes to find himself. There are a few interesting lore things that I do want to point out before we end this video. It's said that the Mogu, despite being unorganized, have been busy with breeding. It is not explained how Mogu breed, but it's interesting that they do, considering that we've only seen 2 female Mogu in the Throne of Thunder. I haven't really told about Chen's part in the story, but that's because this is the general storyline and it doesn't really add to it. What is interesting to note that throughout the story Chen falls in love with Yalia Sage Whisper and she feels the same for him. He envisions them together with a new brewery and a couple of panda cups, and to Chen, the old wanderer, the vision of this future seems pretty damn good. There were 2 theories about the creation of Azeroth and the universe. One was that the universe was created as a whole by a single all-powerful entity, while the other said that a catastrophic cosmic explosion sent the infamous world spinning out into the vastness of the Great Dark. In this book, Vol'jin has a vision. He watched stars explode in a night sky rich with explosions. He watched Azeroth coalesce from nothing. These 2 lines favor the Big Bang Theory over the one that states that Azeroth was created by a single entity. In the same vision, Vol'jin imagines a gigantic scale where he measures himself, a troll, a shadow hunter, to others. When he measures himself to the Zandalari or to Garrosh, the scale tips. They are not equals, and from their point of view, they would see themselves to be better than Vol'jin. When he measures himself with Chen, or Tirafan, or Rexxar, the scale remains balanced. He ponders this, for they are not trolls, but in their heart and in their spirit they are the same. Measured on this scale, they were every bit of troll at heart as he was. No matter what someone looks like or where they come from, in spirit we can all be equal when measured with one's actions. Which I found just a lesson we should all take to heart way more often. The final thing I want to note is a vision Vol'jin had at the start of the story as he's on the brink of death after his assassination. He talks with Samdi and he says, "You're gonna be wishing you had surrendered, for the burden of your victory earned's gonna be one that will grind you into dust." Seeing how he survives this story and leads to the rebellion, I wonder when the moment comes that the burden of his victory will grind him into dust. Is this a clue of Vol'jin becoming the next war chief? Well, I'll leave that up to you. And that's the end of my video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. Like I said, I found this book to be worth your money, but that's just my opinion. I've also heard others who didn't enjoy the story at all. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time guys, see ya!